So I got a question for both of you, since just from your perspective, if you think about the way that, our current economic conditions, whether you think we're in a recession or going into a recession, what are you hearing from our customers, and how are they reacting to this? And I ask that because the technology sector usually will correct a little bit earlier. We'll go into that correction just because of the way that things trade, and we'll generally come out of it a little bit earlier too. So it's a good early indicator of what's happening. But the truth really always goes down to, what are the customers saying? Like, how are they preparing for what's ahead? What are you guys hearing out there?
Well, this is a loaded question, Chris. So I'm going to try to unload it without getting in any hot water anywhere. I think that we're seeing what others see, which is the inflationary pressures. We sell a lot of software. We sell a lot of businesses, also hardware. We have supply chain challenges, right? But they have gotten better over the last year, right? So I think that what customers telegraph is that the demand for three areas that we really are just looking at macro, right? Which is optimization of IT processes, right? You mentioned IT ops. I believe there's funding there. We're not seeing necessarily anything soft in the cybersecurity domain, except for obviously talent, as everyone's aware that this is a real struggle. And I think in some cases, customers are thinking of using tools instead of people, kind of just to lean on that a little bit longer. So that's what the telegraph that we get from customers is the funding is there, but it has to be very prudent on how it's spent, because it has to be deliberate to something, like I said, that has to kind of stay on point on cost. As I mentioned earlier, the cloud costs have skyrocketed. So does that imply anything too dramatic? I don't think so. I think the cloud investments are going to continue to grow. It just means that they'll be more prudent about making sure there's best usage out of it, So that's my long answer about the economic forecast. On the question of recession, they don't. How about this, Chris? They don't last very long historically. From the 1930s to now, statistically speaking, they're not very long, and everyone can hope for that, right?
And it seems to be accelerating. These up and down trends seem to go much faster than they used to. I would also say what we're seeing is, customers are, and I was wondering when this was going to happen, is, they've been, this OpEx model is really great for the vendors like Microsoft and all that, but after a while you start piling on enough OpEx and the companies are like, whoa, OpEx can't be controlled as much as CapEx can be if, say, the economy is a little slow. So I was wondering when we're starting to see that crack a little bit, where people are like, is there ways I can capitalize some of this stuff and not have to make it a recurring cost in my bottom line every quarter? And because it's getting bigger and bigger, right? When it's okay when few of them capitalize or become operational expenses, but as every one of your solutions becomes an operational expense, that's not always an ideal world either to be in. So I'm starting to see the break point there. I've seen customers getting creative a little bit on, if they can sometimes define some of these things as capital items, depending upon how they're deployed. They're looking at, especially like manufacturing, where the budgets are tight. They don't, all this operational expenses and always that's not what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, I see that going on. I think security, we haven't really seen any slowdown yet. And I'm always watching that myself, right? It's be curious to see when we get into next year, when we're on to next year's budgets, right? Because right now we're still kind of working on last year's budgets. People had budgeted things last year. I think being smart, the tools that'll provide visibility, create economics, I think will keep going, because in the digital transformation, people can't stop. They may not have a business if they stop right now transforming their company. It can easily be offset. So it's an interesting thing. We'll see how it all plays out, and data will help with that. So
it will certainly will.